Russell Wilson is the first big domino to fall in the NFL offseason, but is that domino big enough to take out both the Rams and the Chargers? I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for Southern California. This is Faithful Angelinos. We are broadcasting here on March 9th from Ice Station Alpha in Des Moines, Iowa, because of the fact that, well, I need the extra money, so I travel for work. Joe Biden's America. It ain't cheap. But hey, even if the travel and gigs don't work out, Ronald McDonald is here to save my day. We'll get to the main topic in just a moment. If you like the content that we've been putting out for these last couple of weeks, feel free to clickety-clack the like button, clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's also a notification bell. Feel free to hit that. Boom. We broadcast put up a new video like every day, 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Pacific Coast time. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. Spreading the gospel of Los Angeles sports. And comment. I'm not God. I don't know everything. Quick check of the scoreboard. Last night, the Golden State Warriors defeated the Clippers 112-97. In tonight's events, we'll start off. The Lakers are going to be in Houston. That game's at 5 o'clock. And the Wizards will take on the Clippers. That game's at 7:30. I could also tell you the Pac-12 tournament is starting today. No USC, no UCLA. To hell with it. Is anybody else tired of Laker drama? I mean, just worn out. Like a girlfriend or a spouse who just will not let it go. I've never seen so many grown men act feminine like this. And you got LeBron's passive-aggressive behavior. And I like LeBron and I like Westbrook. But now Westbrook is claiming that he's getting so many taunts and so many foul phone calls. Claims some of them are death threats. Maybe they are. So extreme that he doesn't even bring his kids to the game. And then, of course, there's a new report out yesterday. Frank Vogel, the coach, expected to be fired unless the Lakers make a playoff run. That's reported by The Athletic. At some point, I'm saying this even though they're not going to see this. At some point, you got to actually be a man and act like you've had enough and show it on the court. Because right now it's just too much talk. It's kind of gross. I hate saying it. I love the Lakers, but let's be real. They're gross. LAFC's Carlos Vela may be hurt. He left Sunday's match earlier. The soccer club is not giving out any information as to whether or not it's serious or not. He missed a massive chunk of last year, and he brought down LAFC's chances with it. He's a terrific player. The Chargers yesterday signed Mike Williams, wide receiver, 3 years, $60 million. They're not going to franchise tag him as was previously thought. They still have a little bit more than $20 million in cap space left. Can they still make a run at some of the bigger fish in free agency? Of course. One option is to cut Brian Beluga. Cutting him would put the cap back over $31 million. But before we start talking about big fish, let's move on to the big domino from yesterday. Let's break down the trade really quickly. The Seahawks send franchise quarterback Russell Wilson to quarterback-needy Denver. Denver got tired of running the single wing. In exchange for Russell Wilson, who has a Super Bowl to his resume, Seattle gets 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, tight end Noah Fant, reserve quarterback Drew Lock, and a defensive lineman named Shelby Harris. Meanwhile, Denver receives Wilson and a 4th-round pick in this year's draft. Now, before let's talk about how this impacts LA, Russell Westbrook was getting murdered behind a really bad offensive line in Seattle. Seattle's offensive line was ranked 25th because Wilson was getting murdered on 1/3 of his dropbacks. Pressured, hit, sacked. The Broncos are a little bit of an upgrade. They started last year ranked as the 14th best offensive line. They allowed 28 sacks, however, that's 27th in the NFL. Meanwhile, receiving is probably a little bit of a downgrade. If you're in Seattle, you want to be throwing to DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. There's no Broncos that I would suggest for the top 25 in receivers in the NFL. So, I was going through Twitter after the trade, and the funniest thing about it, Russell Westbrook wasn't trending. Aaron Donald was. People were lamenting the fact that Aaron Donald hadn't put Russell Wilson in a body bag yet. You gotta love the humanity on social media. Like Aaron Donald, they had images of Russell Wilson, like drawings of Russell Wilson going, whew, so glad I don't have to face Aaron Donald anymore. And then right behind him is Max Crosby with his arms crossed like, you ain't seen nothing yet. I think, however, this is going to both impact the Chargers and the Rams. We'll get to it. We're going to start off with the defending champs, the Rams. Look, what does this mean for them? Well, first of all, obviously put Seattle in rebuild mode. That's going to be 2 cheap wins. Big whoop. Big whoop. They beat Seattle a couple of times last year. It's not that huge of a deal. If the Seahawks wind up starting Drew Lock, which at this point is a possibility, what I can tell you about Drew, there's a reason that he was a backup in Denver. He lost out to Teddy Bridgewater, for Pete's sake. He did start for like about a half a year. Lock is susceptible to pressure. Meet Aaron Donald. Good luck. The Rams come from pressure from all over the place, and Seattle's line stinks. Lock was drafted with this idea that he had this massive arm. He could throw the ball a country mile. If you don't get protection from the line, you never have a chance to flaunt it. So he's going to get murdered. Or Seattle could choose to take one of all these draft picks and go draft a quarterback. They currently have the number 9 overall selection. Or there's a list of about 8 veteran quarterbacks that they could sign off the free agent market. And if I mention any of their names, you double over and start laughing. So Seattle is most definitely in rebuild mode. Now, what does that also mean for the Rams? Well, Aaron Donald, in my opinion, is probably looking to get more money now. Because if you think about it, there are other dominoes that are going to fall from this trade. Okay? Von Miller came to the Rams. Where'd he come from? Denver. We'll get to him in just a moment. In addition to that, Seattle wound up cutting their all-pro linebacker, their franchise defensive leader, Bobby Wagner, yesterday. Did you know that Rams GM Les Snead loves Bobby Wagner? That whole thing about screw them picks, it came about as something that he calls the Bobby Wagner rule. This is a hat tip to the Turf Show Times for bringing this up. Les Snead says when you have a player that you absolutely love coming up in the draft, don't get cute. Take the guy you want. And if he's not there, then F them picks. Les Snead for an entire decade has lamented the fact that he never drafted Bobby Wagner, who is a linebacker. Now, he's not an outside linebacker like Von Miller, but the Rams, they run a 3-4. They need 2 inside linebackers. They definitely are going to bring back Ernest Jones as one, but Troy Reeder on the other side is a free agent. Do you let Troy Reeder go and bring in Bobby Wagner? You might say he's in his early 30s, but he's a 10-year vet with 8 Pro Bowls and a career high, last year, a career high, 170 tackles. And he covers the pass. I say he could tackle Deebo Samuel of the Niners much more efficiently than a lot of the Rams could last year. So if Von Miller goes, if he goes back to Denver, or if he just leaves, period, do you pursue him? Meanwhile, there is Von Miller news. Von Miller was quoted earlier today saying, I want to figure it out with the Rams first and foremost because they've been really good to me. So the Rams theoretically may have the inside track or not. That could just be a play just to see if he can squeeze more money out of one of the other teams. No idea. Von Miller might go back to Denver. What does this mean for the Chargers, by the way? It's not good. This is the pressure the Chargers front office needs. They now have to play big, in my opinion. Mike Williams, bringing him back, it's not enough. Look, the Broncos last year were an abomination at quarterback. They've been an abomination at quarterback ever since Peyton Manning retired. They've had 9 guys start under center, and they're all laughably horrible. So for the Chargers, against that lousy quarterbacking, last year, they went only 1-1. They lost to the Broncos. And right now, you could easily argue that the AFC West has supplanted the NFC West as the toughest division in football. Look at the quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, Wilson, Derek Carr. And not to just mention that, the Chargers have a pretty damn good quarterback too. So does Von Miller go to Denver, to the Rams? Or do the Chargers do the right thing for their fans? Because if you think about it, you have to get those quarterbacks to stop them. You have to hit them. You've got to sack them. Defensive quarterback pressure is tantamount to victories in the NFL. If you don't do it, Carr, Mahomes, Wilson, they're going to pick apart the Chargers all day. And oh, by the way, Denver does play defense. Denver was ranked 3rd in points allowed last year. They only allowed like 335 points, which sounds like a lot when you put them all together, but you divide that out over a 17-game schedule. Denver is extremely tough to score on. Or do you theoretically go after Bobby Wagner? You had trouble with the run. Bobby Wagner is effective against both the run and the pass. So, what happened yesterday didn't involve a Los Angeles football team. But you'd be fooling yourself if you're trying to act like it didn't impact both of them. The Rams and the Chargers, they both got decisions to make. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about the NFL offseason as it goes along. But for now, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. We want to see you back every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelinos is a Quien Corta El Queso production. Have an excellent day.